So let me explain this part once again. So we have a sequence xm which can be represented as summation j is equal to 1 to n theta jm ej. I have established that it has a subsequence zm summation j is equal to 1 to m gamma jm ej or theta jm ej, theta jm ej. Okay, so how will we define such a sequence? So as we have defined, consider the first subsequence theta 1. Okay, first sequence which corresponds to the coefficient of actually E1. The first basis vector E1. So corresponding to E1 we have the coefficient theta 1 and I write this sequence as theta 1 1, theta 1 2, theta 1 3, etc. And you know that theta 1 1 corresponding to x1, theta 1 2 corresponding to x2, theta 1 3 corresponding to x3. Theta 1 1 is the coefficient of E1 in x1. Theta 1 2 is the coefficient of E1 in x2. Theta 1 3 is the coefficient of x1 E1 in x3. So that this sequence theta 1m has a subsequence which we call as eta 1m or gamma 1m. So subsequence means this sequence contains the terms of the sequence theta 1m but not all the terms. If at all theta 1m the sequence contains the term, let's say theta 1 1, then our subsequence, the corresponding subsequence of xm contains the term x1. If this theta 1m contains the term theta 1 2, then the corresponding subsequence of xm contains the term x2. If theta 1m does not contain, if gamma 1m does not contain theta 1 2, then the corresponding subsequence does not have the term x2. So from xm associated with theta 1m, we can define a subsequence which is called x1m, which may not contain all these terms. And corresponding to this, now we proceed with the second subsequence theta 2m. This has a subsequence eta 2m, and associated with that we have a subsequence of x1m which we call x2m. If we proceed like this, in the nth stage we have the sequence theta nm and the associated subsequence eta nm or gamma nm and the last subsequence xnm as we defined in the previous case. We call this sequence as Zm. Okay, so in general, if we proceed like this, we get a subsequence Zm of xm. Okay, and Zm can be defined as summation j is equal to 1 to n eta or gamma jm et. Okay, and we have already defined that each of the sequence, each of this eta jm converges to beta j, where j varies from 1 to etc. n, which means that norm of eta jm minus beta j should be less than epsilon for all n greater than or equal to some mj, where j varies from 1 to 3 etc. I use this index to generally characterize. Here we have n different sequence, so we may have n different values, constants, and that's why I use the index mj. So keep in mind that this converges to this, and associated with that, we can define a new term Z as summation j is equal to 1 to n beta j ej. It's a new term. Since it's a linear combination of E1, E2, etc. En, this element Z should be an element in the space X. This should belong to X. Okay. Now we have constructed a subsequence xm zm of xm, and we have to prove that zm should converge to some point, and that point should belong to our set M. This is what we have to prove. We will prove that our subsequence zm actually converges to the point z which we have defined, and zm, for that we will take the term norm of zm minus z. Norm of zm minus z is by definition norm of summation j is equal to 1 to n eta jm or gamma jm ej minus summation j is equal to 1 to n beta j ej, which should be equal to norm of summation j is equal to 1 to n eta jm or gamma jm minus beta j times ej. So now by the property of the norm, which can be written as summation j is equal to 1 to n, is actually a real sequence. So these two numbers are real numbers or complex numbers with respect to the underneath field corresponding to the vector field for which we have defined the normed space. So I can write it as modulus of gamma jm minus beta j into norm ej. For convenience, I take k as maximum of norm of E1, E2, etc. norm of En. This is a finite set, so there should exist a maximum. So now we already know that gamma jm converges to beta j. So norm of gamma j minus beta j or modulus of gamma j minus beta j should be less than epsilon for all n greater than or equal to m1, m2, etc. mn. So I write in general this as, I think I write m as maximum of m1, m2, etc. mn. Okay. So now we can write this as, this is actually less than a into epsilon into n, where k and n are fixed numbers. Okay. Here the sequence is with respect to m. So the varying term is actually m. N is a fixed number which is actually the dimension of x. So for all n greater than or equal to capital. Sorry, instead of n we have m. Here also we should have m. The above case also we should have n. For every n, no, we should have n. So we have. Okay. Now this means that epsilon is very small. A n is actually a fixed number. So this means that this term norm of zm minus z actually tends to 0 as m tends to infinity. Okay. So we have proved that our sequence is xm as a subsequence. So xm has a subsequence zm which converges to z. This is what we have established. We have assumed that our set M is closed and bounded. It means it is closed. So for every sequence, the limit point or the limit of the sequence should belongs to the set. Zm is actually a sequence in capital M, because Zm is a subsequence of Xm. Xm is actually a sequence in M. And M is closed means the limit of every sequence which is defined on M should belong to M. So we can say that Z is an element in capital M. Now from that we can conclude that M is compact, because we have assumed that M is closed and bounded. In order to prove that M is compact, we have to take any arbitrary sequence Xm, and for every subsequence Zm of Xm, we have to prove that Zm should converge in M. So we have taken any arbitrary sequence Xm and we found an arbitrary subsequence Zm of Xm, and we have proved that Zm converges to Z. Since M is closed, Z belongs to M. So for every sequence in M, there exists a subsequence which converges to M. So every sequence in M has a convergent subsequence which converges in the space M itself. So from the definition of compactness, we can safely say that M is actually compact. So we have established that in the case of finite dimensional normed space, M is closed and bounded implies M is compact, and in general case, M is compact implies closed and bounded. So to sum up the whole thing, for general normed spaces, M is compact implies it is closed and bounded. For a finite dimensional normed space, M is compact if and only if M is closed and bounded. This is what we have established. So I will sum up the whole thing. We have the theorem that in a finite dimensional normed space, a subset is compact if and only if it is closed and bounded. We have the first part, M is compact, then it is closed and bounded, which we have already established. Now we have to establish that M is closed and bounded implies M is compact. Given that our space is finite dimensional, so dimension of X is to be taken as N. So we have a basis E1, E2, etc. here. Now, in order to prove that M is compact, we have to take any arbitrary sequence and we have to prove that it has a convergent subsequence. So Xm is a sequence in M. Since X1 is M and M is a subspace of X, Xm can be, every term in the sequence Xm can be written as the linear combination of elements in E1, E2, etc. here. So associated with that, we have n different sequences, which is theta 1m, theta 2m, etc. theta n. And since M is bounded, every term is in M is actually bounded. So norm of Xm should be also bounded. It should be less than or equal to K. From that, we can establish that each of the subsequence theta Jm, where J varies from 1 to M, is bounded. So this is actually a real sequence. Theta Jm is a real sequence. Okay, theta J are coefficients which are taken from the underneath field. So it is bounded means by Bolzano-Weierstrass theorem, it has a convergent subsequence. So such a convergent subsequence can be termed as gamma 1m, gamma 2m, etc., gamma nm. Let the corresponding limits be beta 1, beta 2, etc., beta n. Now, associated with that, we can define a subsequence Zm of Xm, which is defined as summation j is equal to 1 to n, gamma jm ej. And we will define a new term Z as summation j is equal to 1 to n beta j ej, where beta j are the limits of the corresponding subsequence. And we will prove that our subsequence Zm converges to Z, and Z is a point in capital M because Zm is a sequence in capital M and M is closed. So thus we have established that we have taken Xm to be an arbitrary sequence in capital M. We found a subsequence Zm of Xm which converges to Z, and Z is an element in capital M. So which means that every sequence in M has a convergent subsequence, which means that M is compact. This is what we have established. I hope you understood. Thank you.